Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, if you do enjoy the video that you came here to watch, do me a favor, go ahead and hit that little red subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. It really does help my audience grow. It really does help this channel grow. It means more than you realize. So go ahead, hit that little red button. Also, remember, full episodes of the Aaron Torres Podcast, wherever you download your podcast, Apple, Spotify, etc. Now, here is the video that you came here for.
Back, I do want to switch gears to hit on yet another mega topic in college sports. In what is just, I think this has been the craziest week of college sports news, probably all season long, all year long, right? We have the college football playoff rankings on Tuesday, which we just talked about. We, of course, have the Auburn firing, which has led to so much craziness over the last couple days. The brawl involving Michigan State football players attacking a Michigan player from all the video that we've seen. We have covered it all, and yet on top of that, we got another mega story on Wednesday afternoon that absolutely has to be discussed right now. It comes from the world more so of college basketball, and it comes from the world, the never-ending world, really, of realignment. That is because on Wednesday afternoon, Pete Thamel, I think he's the best insider in college sports as far as a reporter is concerned. He put out there that last week when Gonzaga was in Texas to play Tennessee in that charity exhibition game that we talked about on Monday's show, and we talked about last week. We had the guy on, Charlie Bessler from Intersport, to discuss the game itself. Well, while Gonzaga was in Texas to play Tennessee, Pete Thamel reports that Gonzaga's AD had a meeting with the Big 12 commissioner, and that it is very possible that Gonzaga could be leaving for the Big 12. Now, to be clear, all reports as I record here at about 6:30 Eastern time on Wednesday are that it's exploratory, but I will just tell you this. I have read a lot of these reports through the years, a lot of different realignment stuff. This feels serious. This feels meaningful. And right now, if I had to bet, I would suspect that at some point in the near future, we hear that Gonzaga is making a move somewhere, very likely to the Big 12. And I think, frankly, it makes sense for both sides. So let's talk about it. Let's break it down. And let's really look at it from all different angles, because I think it makes sense for both sides. And of equal importance, there's a third entity that needs to be discussed as well. From the Big 12 perspective, this is very much in line with what Brett Yormark, the new commissioner of the Big 12, has been about since he took the job. He officially took it this summer, but he has said, look, we are going to be aggressive. We are going to be fearless in how we attack things as the Big 12. For too long, we have been reactionary rather than actionary. We ain't sitting around twiddling our thumbs waiting for somebody to do something to us. And so over the last couple months, what he has done has been very impressive. Most importantly, we didn't talk about it on Monday's show, but the Big 12 announced a new TV deal on Sunday. A lot of people question, could they get it done? All these moving parts, no Texas, no Oklahoma. Well, Brett Yormark, the commissioner, got a TV deal done with both Fox and ESPN that's going to pay those Big 12 schools about $35, $36 million a year. No, it's not SEC money. No, it's not Big 10 money, but it is better than we thought it would be. And so Brett Yormark has promised to be aggressive. He got the TV deal done, and I think he wants to continue to be aggressive going forward. From the basketball perspective, I mean, this would just be obviously a home run. Now, I don't want it. I love Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference. I love this weird, quirky school beating the crap out of everybody by 70 on random Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights. But from the basketball perspective, it makes perfect sense. For all the criticism of what the Big 12 lost with Texas and Oklahoma, specifically in football, although, they're keeping some good teams too with TCU and Kansas State, et cetera, Oklahoma State. But for all the criticism of what they've lost in football, in basketball, this is still the best conference in college basketball, okay? Even without Texas, Oklahoma, still have Kansas, the reigning national champ. Still have Baylor, the team that obviously won the championship 2 years ago. Still have Texas Tech. I don't think a lot of people realize this. 3 of the last 4 NCAA tournaments that have been played, Texas Tech has advanced to at least the second weekend, 1 Final Four appearance, 1 obviously title game appearance in the Final Four in 2019. Beyond that, remember who they're adding. Because of realignment, they're adding Houston, one of the, I think, up-and-coming programs in the country. They're going to start the season. They are starting the season in the top 5. They're adding Cincinnati. I think they're up-and-coming with Wes Miller. They're adding BYU, really interesting program with Mark Pope. So you look at this conference right now. It was already the best conference in college basketball. It's getting better with Houston, better with BYU, better with Cincinnati. We won't talk about Central Florida. And imagine if they added Gonzaga, Kansas, Baylor, Gonzaga. Are you kidding me? You know what else it does too? It's not just about the basketball product on the court. What is it about? Keeping your business partners happy. Think about it from the Big 12's perspective. Now they can go back to those TV networks and say, hey, we already got BYU in this West Coast window. Now we got Gonzaga. Now we can have Kansas, Houston, 9 o'clock Eastern tip, and we can follow that with Baylor at Gonzaga or Kansas at Gonzaga or whoever at Gonzaga. It works for the league. It works for the TV networks. And I would add this as well. I think it makes sense for Gonzaga. There was one really interesting line. Let's talk about it from the Gonzaga perspective. Now, what I would say about Gonzaga, I don't believe that they are in a rush to leave the WCC. They have it really good there. I've said it many times. Mark Few basically he might as well be the commissioner of the WCC. Whatever he wants, he gets. Fewer league games, more time for out-of-conference games. The path to the conference championship game for him is so easy. You only play 2 games. So I don't think they're in a rush to leave, but there are 2 things that are obvious. One, they have been looking at other options. Remember, about 4 years ago, there was a report that they got pretty far down the road with the Mountain West. Mountain West ultimately was offering them more money, more exposure, more this, more that, better conference, San Diego State, UNLV, whoever. And at the last minute, they pulled back and just said, you know what, this isn't for us. Again, Mark Few got a few of those things that he wanted to stay in the WCC. There's been reports that the Big East has had conversations with Gonzaga. Don't know how far those have gone, but obviously from a basketball-only perspective, it makes sense. And of course, the Pac-12, they're right in the Pac-12 footprint. You'd be naive to think that the Pac-12 hasn't at least contacted them. Now, whether there's been formal discussions, I don't know. But I bring it up because it's been obvious from an outsider that they're at least looking at their options. This is obviously a great option with the basketball element of this as well. I thought it was very interesting in Pete Thamel's article, the exact words. Let me see if I can find the exact, it's not a direct quote, but what he said was, Gonzaga was brought up by the conference and it's blah, 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 this and that. This is what he said. He said the school has been transparent with the WCC about its conversation. So we know they've been flirting. They have told the conference itself we're talking to other people. So to me, this is more than just exploratory. They are looking at their options. They are waiting for the right option. And if the right option fits, then it's something that they would consider. The other thing I would say too, the Big 12 just got that new TV deal. Think about it from Gonzaga's perspective. Now, they probably wouldn't get a full share the way that Oklahoma State or Kansas or Baylor does. But if you don't have football, what does it matter? If you're making $25 million instead of 35, but you don't have football, you don't have to, scholarships for 85 players, feed 85 players, pads for 85 players, nutrition for 85 players, insurance. If you don't have football, the money makes more sense, and they're certainly going to make more money from the Big 12. Finally, and I think this is important, everybody looks at it from the Big 12 perspective, the Gonzaga perspective. You know what I don't think anybody's talking about? Keep in mind, what did I just tell you? The Big 12 just signed a new TV deal with both ESPN and Fox. Why is that important? We know that the TV networks run realignment. And so if you already have a partnership with the 2 big TV networks, with the 2 big ones, that's probably something that they would be excited to add to their portfolio, to add Gonzaga to their portfolio. And so you have to think, and I haven't had any conversations with TV people, but you would have to think that ESPN's excited about it. I know I work for Fox. I work for Fox Sports Radio. I have no idea what's going on in the TV department. But you would think that the TV networks would be over the moon if, again, you can add Gonzaga, an elite brand. You can like them, you cannot like them. But that is an elite brand. And then just as important, and this is important, again, you get those late West Coast games. Fox has something to put on FS1 at 11 p.m. ESPN has something to put on at 11 p.m., 11:30, 10:30, whatever it is. And it's big brands. It's not Gonzaga beating somebody by 40. You got Kansas at Gonzaga, Baylor at Gonzaga, Texas Tech at Gonzaga, BYU at Gonzaga, Cincinnati at Gonzaga. So I don't know how far this is along. What I do know is it makes sense for the Big 12, for Gonzaga, and for the TV networks as well. Lastly, what I would say, I've tried to defend the Pac-12 through all this craziness. I think they're a little bit more stable than people want to give them credit for. But if they let Gonzaga out of their grip, I'm doing the hand thing right now. That is a brutal look for the Pac-12. In your footprint, across state from Washington, short drive to Oregon, and you let them go to a mostly Midwest conference, that's a really, really bad look for the Pac-12. Again, I've given credit to the Big 12 for being proactive instead of reactive. It's time for the Pac-12 to get a little proactive as well. They better get on the phone. They better see what Gonzaga wants, because if you lose Gonzaga to the Big 12, that is a really, really bad look. All right, that's what I want to do. I do want to take a quick break. I do want to come back. And when I come back, as promised, we are welcoming on a friend of the show, a great guy. I love talking to him, and he is certainly in the news. It is Hugh Freeze, the head coach at Liberty. We talk about everything. We talk about this weekend at Arkansas. We talk about how he builds all these great teams. And at the end of the interview, I do ask him about other jobs. Now, it's important to note, we did this interview in the middle of the bye week last week. Liberty had a bye. This was before he signed his extension. This was before Auburn fired Brian Harsin. But even with the extension, it's not enough to keep teams away. And I did ask him point blank, would you be interested in other jobs? His answer was very interesting. So we're going to take a quick break, come back, talk to Hugh Freeze. And this is an exclusive. You heard from Lane Kiffin yesterday. You're going to hear from Hugh Freeze right now. Take a quick break. Be right back.